Hi, welcome to Artist a la Mode. I'm Kim Timlage, your host, and we have a great show tonight. We're sitting here with Steve Donovan, Maisie Crowther, and Cy Silver. So we're going to be talking about their work and their exhibits and how they got started. And Cy, I guess we'll start with you since we're on pink. We're wearing the pink slip. And Cy is actually exhibiting at the gallery at the moment, Brattleboro Museum. And she is part of a show called Hot Pot. It is an exhibit for a taste of contemporary Chinese art. Thank you. So tell me how this exhibit got started and how this whole process about the pink slip. It's quite a interesting story about the pink slip itself and your process in coming up with this exhibit.
Receiving pink slip, and then it came. The experience is very strong and intense. Then, since I spent so much time,
and we should say the pink slip getting fired, right?
Right.
It's not everybody knows, but when you get a pink slip, it means you actually got terminated sometimes for not so good reasons, right?
Right. So this project came actually. So from my experience, through this experience, and then I grew to be created a whole an art exhibition. And the whole purpose of a Pink Slip project is about to have our voice and to find our inner strengths and be creative, to discovering our creativity and to move on.
Yeah, and you've written, which I thought was so beautiful, to take a negative experience and with art turn it into a really positive experience. And Cy had brought these pink slips that she made, which was so fun. I mean, I was nervous. I haven't done the show in a while, and I'm like, I walk in, she gives us pink slips to put on. I mean, it's just made me happy. And so.
And also, years ago when I first came to United States, I heard about people talking about pink slip. But for my own understanding, and I misheard, I thought they were talking about pink slipper. So that's why here is a pink slipper. And for my imagination, I thought, oh, how cute, like fairy tale. So, and years later, until I receive actual pink slip, and it's not fairy tale.
Right, so you actually got a pink slip.
Yes.
And was that here?
Yes, in my work.
Yeah. So how long did it take you before you came up with putting that experience into the art?
Right. The experience of to communicate with my immediate boss, and so that takes for like 2 months. And through this experience, I came up with this creativity thing. I thought it was like transcended, and it becomes a very positive and exciting project for me. And along with this, I also have support group. It's called Our Meal Table, and this is for people who receive pink slips and having difficulty at work, and we gather together having meal, and which is nourishing, and then we talk about our experience and giving each other support.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And the exhibit in the museum right now is up until June 26th, right? And you're also having these meal tables at your art gallery, which is in West Brattleboro, and it's at 6 p.m., and you're having one this Saturday, and we'll mention that again, but I think that's a wonderful opportunity because these experiences can be really damaging if they're not processed and released and transformed, like you said, into something really positive.
Right, exactly. That's why I hope, it's my wish that this Pink Slip project will bring people to speak up and have their voice.
Because it can be a learning experience. If you talk about it and process it, you get to see probably parts of yourself. I don't know if you had this experience, where you can look at all the aspects of the experience and integrate that and get a better understanding about yourself.
Getting in touch with your inner strengths, and then have your creativity, then to discovering something else that within yourself.
Yeah. Great. And we're going to talk with Stephen and Maisie too, so you guys can join in anytime too. I think it's great to have artists together that you usually work alone, so it's nice to, unless you're in school, you get to talk together. So do you want to start talking about some of the photos? You have exhibits outside the museum and inside?
Yes. Yeah. You're from.
Yeah, so this first...
So this is an outside piece in the Brattleboro Museum. It's on 3 floating dark doors, so filled with pink slip. And
pink slips like these?
Right. Yeah. And the effect is really wonderful, beautiful. It flies with the wind. And it kind of takes to a different level of not only pink slip, there's another to work with the qi and the air, the wind. And this is the slippers, and that I came up. And the slipper also has a different meaning in Chinese culture. Slipper is a hospitality, and when guests come to the house, and the host gave the guest a slipper to welcome them to the inn. So this is I think this is very nice when we have our meal table and everyone wearing these slippers. You feel like home.
Yeah,
and
they feel great.
And also there's other meaning of in Chinese culture. Hanging a pair of shoes on the wall, it means to avoid evil spirit. Because the word to say 辟邪 wall shoe and hanging up the avoiding evil spirits, 辟邪 sound the same. So they both different words, different expressions, but they sound the same. That's why people in local families, they usually hang a pair of shoes on the wall for good luck.
And that was your gallery. This
is an actual pink slip documents shredding. So I shredded my own documents. I received pink slip and I shredded, and the process of shredding is kind of like usually is the organization try to destroy the documents evidence, but this way I shred my own. It's kind of like say goodbye to past and move beyond. Yes, that's right. And I also, with these documents shredding, I make it into something useful, make it into placemats or a doily on the door, on the window.
You have those at the meal table, right? You
yes.
Use the placemats.
Yes. Here's the pink slip placemats, and wallpaper, and also the paper mache balls and tables. So that's placemats. To make it into something destructive, something into useful. Useful. And all these items are in the museum. And this is also binding feet shoes. And I make with shredded documents, papers, into small shoes. This has long tradition of Chinese culture. And bound feet is both repression and also giving a woman status. It's only affluent families bound their daughters' feet to give them better future, give them life better. That's the past in Chinese culture. So this has many meanings. It is both giving you social status and also in the same time repressing you. And the words on the small shoes is fired in Chinese. Yeah, that's fired. And so I made into a chopstick holder with the shredded paper documents. And this is we do a lot of meal table and gather together with people who having difficulty at work or receive pink slip. And we eat together and discuss and talk about the experience.
And is this at your gallery once a week right now through?
And we have a different time schedule. So this Saturday is the next meal table. Is 6 o'clock is at our gallery, is CX Silver Gallery. And you can contact me at, and my phone number is 257-7898. And my email is caixi@gmail.com.
Great, and anybody's welcome that's going through the process or even any process at work. They
Right.
want to open to discussion.
Yes. And this is a show in the museum right now. It's a hot pot, a taste of a contemporary Chinese art. And on the opening day, this is a performance artist, and she painted herself blend into the pink slipper. It was wonderful opening exhibition. Oops, it's a sideway. I'm sorry about that.
No, it still looks good.
Yeah.
No mistakes.
So please come to see the exhibition in the Brattleboro Museum. It's wonderful.
And it's up till June 26th.
Right.
Great. And there's 2 other exhibits there joining you as well. So there's a group of you, right? There's
There's a group of many artists from China. It's about 20 artists from China
great.
in the show. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to go see it myself. Good. Okay. Okay. So thanks,
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.
Great to have you here again, as always. And Stephen, welcome. It's great to see you, and I'm excited to talk to you because I know seeing your work on the murals that you did on the Brooks Building, right after, if you can all remember that, the fire and winter in Brattleboro can be feeling pretty drab, and you painted these amazing murals during the day. People were driving by on all the windows, and again, art brought such beauty. And healing to a building that really took a hit with the fire. And so I was reading in your bio that you've actually never had professional training, but
No.
you've been...
I never intended to be an artist. I had to go to work. All through school. I was born with the ability to be able to draw. And I would copy pictures and be accused of tracing and all that other fun stuff. So I learned to change it up a little bit and make it different. But when I was 18, I found cooking, and I've been doing that ever since. My art has always been for family and friends, and I daydream every once in a while about being famous.
Yeah.
And,
So it started,
so
how
this is
old
weird.
How old were you when you first started drawing, do you think you were?
5 years old, as long as I can remember.
And I noticed you said you like to draw, and really you're good at copying or detail.
Yeah. I wanted to get the same detail with my brushes that I was getting with my pencil. And I started in 1985. I painted 6 oil paintings, and I wasn't really happy with oil paint because it was messy, and I was young and lazy. And playing with acrylics over the years, I've been able to get better detail, and it dries quicker, so I can continue working on it without having to wait for it to dry.
And at the same time, you became a cook also, so you could support the art.
Yeah.
And so you started, you said that you did a lot of your work privately.
Yeah.
And then people actually started noticing your work and wanting your work. And
Yeah.
actually, so you took the risk and actually put it up for sale and sold some work.
Yeah.
And then I was reading that you started doing murals in homes.
Yeah.
And you just started with your own, and then...
I started out in my house. I had a picture of a river in my living room. It was probably 8 foot by 11 foot. I actually have a picture of it. This is my favorite picture of my living room. I have
Best
a
way
very
to paint.
strange sense of humor, so I hope nobody gets hurt.
Well, I think it's great to know, too. You can go to school for art, but it's also this self-taught.
Yeah.
So if the camera can pick that up.
That's my youngest son. And that was my living room. And I figured, how often can you tell your child to go play down by the river by himself with a gun?
So that's an oil?
No, that's just acrylic paint.
Wow. So that is pretty
Yeah, so
detailed.
it opens up the room.
Yeah,
It makes it
yeah,
look
yeah.
a lot bigger. This is a basement apartment. I had one window. And
Wow.
in the bedroom, I had windows. I had 5 windows total. But there was it was just dark and dismal. So I just painted it all up. And when I got bored with that, I'd change it. So it was cool.
And then you started doing murals. Is this, oh, they took the mural.
Yep,
There was
it's
a
over
mural
there.
behind me. It's over there.
That is actually part, that will eventually be sold and the money will go to the Turning Point on Elm
Go to-
Street. The Turning Point used to be on Elm Street. The only reason I'm a muralist is because of a friend of mine pestered me to put my artwork outside. I'd already done inside buildings and I did some in town and he kept pestering me to put it outside, so I put it on the Turning Point that was on Elm Street. And then from there I got Adagio's windows when they were open for service. I was actually a cook there too. And then when the fire happened, and the rest is history. But that's been worked on for about 4 or 5 years now. It's in I tack it onto my living room wall and I plug at it every once in a while and eventually it'll be finished.
And talk about some of the murals. So there's one on Elm Street that you
Yeah,
did
it's on the old
too?
Turning Point.
Great.
It's right behind T.J. Buckley's. Equilibrium moved in there now, and they just put words over the top of it, which looks really cool too. People ask me, it's like, are you upset? And I was like, no, it's temporary art. It's made to go away.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned too in your bio that you want to teach, which I think is great because it's as an artist to have a gift and then also to share that. So you're drawn to
yeah,
teaching.
that came from,
and Maisie too. We can talk about this with you. And Sai, you teach too, right? So you all teach. Yeah.
Well, that came from painting on the mural on the Brooks house. I had to hear people over my shoulder saying stuff that was really, really nice, and it actually kept me going because it made me feel, not good about what I was doing for the town or whatever. It's like cool. Somebody would mention, oh, there's turquoise in the water. It's nice to see it again. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be there. And I had a friend who was working at the restaurant with me. She's a teacher in Guilford, and I talked to her a couple years ago about doing something with the kids on the walls, and that's gonna happen. We just gotta wait for the time.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
So the kids can also learn
Yeah,
how to do
they're gonna
murals.
guide my brush. Yeah, my son helped me with a website a long time ago, and one of the things that I said that I could do was somebody can guide my brush, and actually that's the middle painting.
Oh yeah, so, and I do because I was reading about that with the guiding the brush. So can you talk about that? Is there a website people can go on, or
Yeah, it's
and
Starving
tell
Artist.
how it works? I'm not quite sure.
Actually, you can Google my name and it'll show up. It'll say, welcome to my homepage. But a woman approached me while I was painting a Brooks House mural, and she wanted to make a painting that had all the features of a poem that she had written. And she eventually wanted to take that and have it printed on a piece of paper with the poem and everything, and then take it with her when she passed. So we worked on that for a while, and we'd go back and forth with notes through emails and stuff, and that's what we came up with. And there's a bunch
wow.
of, it did not originally look like that. The girl that I first put in had a yellow dress, and she looked about 12. And, but the things that she wanted in there are in there. All the little tiny nooks and crannies.
So she would call or email you
or
and tell
with me,
you.
and we'd look at the picture, and she'd tell me, and we'd go over notes, and she'd do whatever, and then I'd go home and I'd paint. But you actually don't have to come to my
Wow.
studio because I don't have one.
So you can create art for people.
Yeah.
That's a great concept. That's amazing. So people that aren't artists or want a painting and they want an image that's in their head.
But no animals, portraits, fruit, or flowers.
No what?
No animals, portraits, fruit, or flowers.
No animals, no
If you
portraits,
saw
no
my
fruit or
attempts, you would ask me,
flowers. So
"Please
it's
never do it again."
landscape. Yeah, so it's something about the expansive, and it's
Yeah.
interesting too. I think wanting to be outside, because breaking out of that boundary,
Yeah.
of being out,
Yeah.
even as an artist.
Can't wait for spring.
Yeah.
Can't wait for spring. I have some things that I want to do this coming spring, so I have to
And-
wait for good weather.
And do those ideas just come as
Yeah.
things you want to paint, and then you'll sit with it for a while? And
I love Brattleboro. I walk around town and I look at all the empty walls and things that I can do with it, and eventually I'll either fund it myself or find somebody who will help me, because I like to paint, and I figure while I'm painting, I might as well just do it. I'm not going to get rich at this. I already know that. That's not what I'm here for.
well, you never know. I always find that when we're doing what we love, money somehow follows. And I think that
Yeah.
is a lot of people don't get into art because they're afraid, or music. Well, I can't make a living at it. But I do think when you find what you love, whatever it is in life, the universe really supports you, even if it starts with people saying, that's really good, that moved me, or that inspired me. And we need more of that in the world. And, you know, the Dalai Lama is always saying we don't need smarter people, we need more artists and more healers of all kinds. And I think art and music is very healing, because it brings us together, because we're all kind of the same, and yet art and music, everybody has a different expression. So, yeah. And I think getting all the positive feedback when you're out there and painting and
that's cool. I really enjoyed it because I was speaking to another artist that I met when I moved here, and she would get mad at me because I wasn't passionate about my art, and I wasn't. I didn't get passionate about it until I actually started painting, and people were actually, you know, getting inspired by it. And then that led to me actually wanting to do something with helping inspire kids and teach and whatever. Because in my line of work, my day job, my cooking job, I've always worked with young people. So I've always, you know, listened to their woes and helped them and all that. And I have a bunch of kids of my own, so it was really kind of cool. So I didn't plan this; it just happened. So I might as well run with it.
Yeah. And you love Brattleboro. How long have you been living here, and where are you from?
6 years.
6 years.
Yeah. And I lived up in White River for 22 years, and I came here in 2007. And yeah, I love it.
I think it's great then tapping into the kids that love to paint outside, I'm sure, on a big mural.
I have plans. I have ideas. Keep your eyes open.
And I think we need to plant those seeds early on. The younger generation's so important to give them permission to create and explore who they are. You know, even if they're experiences that aren't like the pink slip, you know, you can take an experience, and that's important for kids too. So great.
It's interesting. Steve also is an artist, also is a cook. I'm a cook too. So cook and art.
Even during the
food
Great
and art
Depression.
always go together.
Even during the Great Depression, people always managed to go out and treat themselves to a meal.
Right, it's all senses, taste and smell and touching, all together.
Yeah, and it's healing and nourishing.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think it's the best life training working in the restaurant business. You learn everything about people, that's for sure.
Yes.
So, well, great. Well, thanks for coming. Is there anything else you want to say about your work before we move on?
I brought that
to
other one
Maisie?
because I wanted to practice on working on doing bows, and so like looking down a road and walking and having it like collapse in around you. So you can crawl up underneath that painting, the leaves and stuff. So if you get up close, you can actually get right up underneath there and follow the little detail and get lost.
Great. Great. Okay.
Yep. The one on the far left. Yep. That's about it.
Good. Okay. Well, thanks for coming and sharing your work. It's great. I look forward to seeing more murals around town. And so great. So thanks for coming. So Maisie, welcome. Nice to have you here.
For inviting me. I think you're both very brave to have your work outside where everybody can view it. I'm much more timid, I think.
But a long career, 50 years, right? Been
well,
playing.
actually, maybe a little longer if you count painting and crayoning on the wall. And finally, at the age of 6, my mother would come in and said, I think, Maisie, it's time to do a little whitewashing of this wall and give it a new coat of paint. So away went my crayons on the wall, that is. But I've always been interested in painting, and I didn't have a lot of extra formal training just through school. And particularly as I was listening to the two of you, I kept thinking of my high school. My junior year, the art teacher said, would you like to do a mural in the school auditorium? And it was a part of the stage area, and it was going to be an illustration of the prophet. And I was supposed to do the picture of the prophet. Well, between the spring break and the summer break and coming back to fall, something happened to all those murals. And the headmistress of the school said, when I came back in September, she looked around, she said, isn't it wonderful we don't have anything that is distracting us? And I was crushed. The other artists who had been working on the other parts of the wall were seniors, and they would never have seen it anyway. But I was a junior, and I was kind of crushed. So I was pink-slipped. That's how I felt about it when I heard you. But the art teacher was so comforting. And at the end of the school year, she gave me a book by Irving Stone on Van Gogh, A Lust for Life. So I brought the little snowflake in. I call it snowflake mosaic, but I think I was thinking about Van Gogh's pointillism when his drawings from the book that was sort of inspired by his work, but it has a Vermont scene. It could be any kind of Vermont scene, I suppose. But I kept thinking, I was just kind of doodling, and I had snowflakes. It must have been January, and with the school
with the Van
children.
Gogh book and your good art
and
teacher.
I made a snowflake, and then I thought, oh, let's just try doing that. And so that was the, it's not a real snowflake in there, but I just used the pattern.
So how old were you when you did this piece?
Well, probably that was in the 80s. I did that.
So this
in
is
the 1980s,
some of the
about 30 years ago.
Your first work,
Yeah.
or yeah?
Well, I was working. I taught at St. Michael's for Catholic school in the 80s for a few years, and then I went off to work at CCV as a watercolor and drawing, and University of Vermont and so forth, around and about. So, but I'm traveling.
Traveling. That's what I was going
Okay.
to get to.
I guess I brought the little sketch next to it with the red, yeah, the one up, because that's how I learned Greek. I was out in a place in the northern part of Greece near Ouranoupoulos, and that is a baker's oven. And I decided my children were asleep during nap time, siesta, and I went out to sketch. And it was very, very hot, and I sat on the steps opposite. Finally, a lady came by, and she looked at me, and she said, "And what are you doing?" All in Greek. Well, I knew a little Greek, but she said, "Oh, I will teach you about this oven." So I learned about psomi, which is the bread. I learned about the xyla, which are the sticks on the left. I learned that this is a fourneau. I learned all kinds of Greek words. And she was a lady dressed very much in black from tip to toe, and very kind, and very personable, and taught me all about what it was for. So traveling had its...
Is that when you started watercolor as well?
It's really when I started thinking seriously about it. That was 1973. And I had my first exhibit, and I was trembling. And I shared the space in the library at the Anatolia College. And that was really hard because people really wanted them. And I didn't know whether I wanted to let them go. So that was another thing. And of course, they were very reasonable. They were just there as, I was just chronicling my journey there. We were there for 2 years. But that's one of it, the idea. The last year, my husband and I went out to visit our daughter, and we went to Yosemite. And the lower one underneath there is near the falls of the lower Yosemite Falls. And I was intrigued by the gnarled way the trees, this is a very old tree, maybe even one of the earliest trees, sort of hugging the rocks and the water swirling around. It was April, it was just this time of year. And so I took some photographs. I worked from my own photographs mostly.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long does a piece like that take in watercolor?
How long does it take? Well, the initial watercolor background and the layout of the whole thing usually takes maybe 2 hours for me, mainly because a lot of my paintings are wet in wet. And then I go back when it's dry and I work in the details. And that could take, I'm finicky. And I think that I could not get that right. And that's where it's wonderful to have a group to bring things to. And then I say, I have this problem. And this is what we do at the senior center. We have this problem. And then everybody hovers around and gives what they think could help it. And so that I did bring it. And somebody said, well, on the right-hand side, you could use more color. And then I thought, well, it has to balance with a little bit of the rock on the left. And, so you try to
So with a group, it's
work.
helpful to other artists to
I
get
have other
feedback about
artists.
what's working,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
so it's supportive to
Right, very
to- in the
supportive.
process.
Very supportive. And we're all, I call this ancient, and we're all ancient, so that's why we are at the senior center. We are ancient.
Yeah, and
But we enjoy doing that. So those are the ones. Another trip, this was 50 years ago. I went to New Zealand, and I did this out of the window of the Hermitage, which is South Island, and this is Mount Cook, where Sir Edmund Hillary trained for climbing Everest. And so this is the 50-year-old thing. I dragged it out, and I thought,
it's beautiful.
it might have some potential. I call it rather primitive.
And one of
But-
the things I read about your work, you said you've enjoyed over the 50 years watching the landscapes change.
Yes.
So working
Yes.
with the same medium, so I was hoping you'd talk about that a little bit. You
Yes.
said Vermont and Ipswich was your favorite.
Yes.
And so to watch landscape change, that just really captured
Landscapes
me.
do change, and I had fun putting together a little calendar about changing landscapes around Brattleboro. And this,
nice.
This Christmas past, I put this together, and the local Lotus Graphics ran it off for me. But it's just a little bit of work. I downloaded the calendar part, and then I just cut and paste some of these images in. And
do you keep painting the same places, and you
yeah,
notice?
this is one of the places I paint a lot. This is Round Mountain, which is on the corner right where Abbott Road comes in, and the school bus stops, and you see deer, and you see red-tailed hawk, you see all kinds of wildlife there. And it's a beautiful field, and I just always like to stop there every season to paint it, and I painted it a lot.
So every season you stop there.
Every season
Is there a
has something
certain
different.
spot that you
Well,
sit in,
right
or-
along the road, I stop because I don't want to slow traffic, but it's a dirt road, and there's not an awful lot of traffic. So I can sometimes get over on the side of the road. One time I was there several years back, and a neighbor came by and said, "Are you all right?" And I realized I was painting something red, and it was probably the little red barn, and he thought that I'd injured myself. And I began thinking, maybe I shouldn't paint alone, and I don't do that so much now. I paint with other people, but he was kind to stop and ask. So this is the springtime ones. The Retreat Meadows is one of my favorite places. That doesn't change too much except after Irene.
Do you
It
feel the
certainly did.
energy in a certain place, or it's like a comfortable feeling, or you're drawn
Yes.
there, or this
Yes.
just, it feels...
It feels when I go up behind, well, where Curves is and where the old Rollodrome. I mean, I've been painting that place for a long time in different seasons. So I feel I can park there, and I'm not totally out in the wilderness, but I can relax there. And I've taken students there to paint, and they all line up along the driveway there. And we all paint the same thing sometimes. I've taken them to the ledges, Dummerston, the Stickney Brook. We've painted lots of paintings all around.
So you take your students to your favorite
I take-
places.
yes,
That's great.
we have our favorite place. This is Stickney Brook, and this is another South Pond. This is in Marlborough, and that's another place people like to paint. And then they go swimming, and we can have a picnic. So that's fun. And yes, I do flowers sometimes.
I like your calendar because I recently started doing calendars too.
Well, this is
I think
kind
that's
of
great for
this
local
is the
artists,
last.
too.
This is fall. This is a view from my window. Every morning, I get another sunrise. I don't see the sunsets much, but I get really good sunrises. This is, again, changed a little bit because this is an old barn that they're redoing, so they've taken some of it down. This is Round Mountain again. This is the Retreat Meadows. These,
And can you talk about when you're
it.
painting the same, I'm intrigued by that, when you're painting the same landscape over time, like what your eye catches differently, or the process, are you surprised at what you see differently over time?
It is surprising. We were at the marina for a brunch one morning, and it was several years back. And in January, it hadn't snowed very much, and the mist was rising up off the retreat, off West River. And I said, I have to go home and paint that. I just looked out the window. Of course, I couldn't do it right in the middle of breakfast, but I went home and just washed the piece of paper and then just put the color in, and it worked. I don't know how, but I just felt I had to record that type of atmosphere that is so Brattleboro, because in the fall you get the mist on the river and it rises, and it's and I love the Oriental paintings that have that kind of misty quality to them. So that's kind of fun too. The wall hanging you see behind.
Oh yes, let's talk
That
about
was inspired, and I wanted to say something about that because it was a coincidence. I had that all ready to come. It was inspired by the Gee's Bend quilters in Alabama. And then I read today in the Commons that the Hilltop Montessori School has made a quilt inspired by the Gee's Bend, and they're going to take it down to that part of the country. And the Gee's Bend quilters have raised our consciousness about civil rights in this country. And I saw a wonderful museum exhibit in Boston several years back. It must have been about 2004 or something. And I've been curious what to do with all these scraps. So when I went to Iceland, and there's a little island called Jaime Island off the west coast. I went there for a workshop in 2005, and it rained all day. It was June, but they had a volcanic eruption in 1973, okay, 40 years ago in January. And the wind blew the cinders away from the town for 3 days so that the residents could escape. And I thought, that's a story. That's just how to be rescued. It's an unusual sort of thing. So it kind of came together that this, I can't really see this, but I wrote a little something about it. This is the island as it was, and then this new 1973 lava flowed. And I started as a random or crazy piece using scraps and strips from former quilting projects. In this process, I began to see the colors of Jaime Island were represented: reds, browns, blacks of the jagged nature of the mountain lavas, and the blues of a turbulent ocean all seemed to work together. The layering reminded me of geological formations. The houses are painted in bright hues on the island, mainly because it's so foggy, and the fishermen who come back in the middle of the night have to recognize their own house. So if they can't in the fog, they have to see a bright color. So Windsock, I call it, came to me as a title to honor the natural forces of wind that blew away from the town for days, allowing the inhabitants to escape by fishing boat, and windsocks are used on small airfields to indicate wind direction and strength. The small strip on Jaime Island became a lifeline, and the international rescue teams came to help them slow the lava back. They put on long boots, they pumped the seawater right onto the lava, which stopped it from closing up the harbor. If it had closed, their fishing would have died. Their fishing industry would have suffered a lot. So anyway, that was just sort of a different kind of piece. I don't do that very often, but I just felt I had to do that. And that's part of what an artist does. If they feel compelled to do something different. And,
so you trust that
yep.
process of wanting to express something or
Yep.
create something from an experience and transform it.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. So should we talk about your teaching a little bit and the group you have?
The group that I have now is just terrific.
It's the watercolor.
We're all mixed experiences. We started in 1990 when I was working at
and this is
the
at the senior center in
yeah.
Brattleboro.
And then after 4 years of my job there, the job was terminated. And I sought other employment, and I found the best job of my life, which was my library job in a small town, Westmoreland, New Hampshire. And in a way, I thought, there's a reason my position was terminated. There's a reason. So I went on and I found that job. So you just don't know, what happens. And it was my dream job. I just loved it. And I was able to utilize some of my art experience. I love to read to children. Have a nice grandson now, and send him books and things. But
And you're showing it.
Yeah, right.
And you're exhibiting at the library, the Brattleboro Library, right now. You have some work up.
Actually, the Putney Library right now.
Putney.
Yeah, right. But our group at the Senior Center is composed of several members of the Saxons River Art Guild, and we are going to have a show at the library, in Brooks Library, in May. And some of us are members of the Vermont Watercolor Society. Some are members of the Brattleboro West Arts.
How many in the group?
Well, there are about 12 of us.
Oh, that's a good
And
size group.
about 6 to 8 people come every Wednesday morning. And everybody is welcome to join us.
And it's 9:30.
We're not that formidable, but we do enjoy working on different projects that we bring to do. And
So somebody can bring a piece they're working on and
Yes.
get the support of the group.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it meets 9:30 to 11:30.
9:30 to 11:30, and you can stay for lunch because it's always good. The cook is pretty good.
Do you do the cooking?
I have to make her lunch.
Oh, that's
She
great.
makes the lunch. Another coincidence.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's great. I also have enjoyed working at Thompson House. They have a wonderful program over there, and part of their program is Art in Motion. And because it's a demonstration that I do, and there are some others that I know who do them too, I've had to work larger than usual. And so this was one I did last fall, and I started it, and the idea is that you have about an hour to start it. So I figured that because some of them really like to paint themselves, they might like a few tips about leaving white paper. And this is a birch tree in our backyard. Okay, so the birch tree is these shapes are all in the negative space created by the white birch tree. And then I go back over it, and I can bring it in and show them the progress that I've made. Maybe it's some progress, I don't know. But it's big, and I'm not used to working so big. I usually work about as big as the ancient tree there.
It's beautiful.
So just to finish up with
So
Mount
you're
Cook.
not
This was
used to
another
working
one I
in a
did
big,
couple of
a
years,
big. You're not
yeah,
used to
just
the bigger.
make it bigger, and I'm not sure it's any better. It's not really finished yet, but you know, it's getting. Part of it is getting there. I've always been interested in mountains and geology, and if you ever want a geology lesson, go to New Zealand, because you will learn everything you ever want to about thermal geysers and terminal moraines and kettle holes and glaciation, all kinds of things. It's quite extraordinary. That's what brought me to Yosemite, too. Fascination for our own national parks, and read John Muir and read about how it was saved by Theodore Roosevelt, and went camping with him. That's in a children's story, by the way.
You went camping?
Yeah, John Muir took Theodore Roosevelt camping, and tried to persuade him that he shouldn't allow tourists and industry to ruin the beauty. So I'm glad he did create the park. Yeah, create the park. So those are the things I feel passionate about, too, nature in itself. And you mentioned sort of catching the eye, and when I go down to the retreat meadows, sometimes there are ducks, and sometimes there are geese, and sometimes there are boaters, and sometimes it's just the beginning of the spring colors. So color is something I'm really interested in, too. And I guess all artists love those paints.
I like the retreat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the trails I found in there. It's really nice to just go sit. Yeah.
Meditate.
I like what you said about not, I didn't want to give away my stuff. I wanted to keep it because that's how I felt about a lot of my work. I liked it hanging around. And that's why I started making prints of my pictures and selling them. It's done pretty good at the Baskets bookstore and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I make cards and things.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. Play with the computer.
Now I can't wait to get rid of them.
I know.
I'm very
You get
happy
too many
to
of them. You're just like, get rid of them.
happy to sell them once in a while. Yeah.
It's interesting that Lindsay's art in motion, and right now what I'm doing is art as social change. So art can do so much for the community and involving community. So
This town's huge. For
yes,
art.
yeah.
I didn't realize how big. There's so many artists in this town. It's not funny. And I'd love to have a studio to have a place for them to go and do this stuff. Like I make a lot of art. I work in a 10 foot by 13 square. My living room. That's it. And then if I can go anywhere and paint, it's kind of cool. But a lot of people in this town don't have a place to put their stuff. Yeah. I'm hidden in the bookstore in Harmony parking lot, Baskets bookstore. People don't even look over there. So,
So spaces for artists, affordable spaces.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I just like to, speaking of things that
The space can be any space, any space, and any the tool also can be any tool. And I used to do like tea, leftover tea or leftover coffee is a color. And the mops is a brush. So it is also involving to the people who don't have experience painting. So they immediately can relate it. Like they have a leftover tea, leftover coffee. They have a mops, so they can do artwork.
yeah, a broom is a brush.
Yes.
Again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so
things
I
of Jackson Pollock
Yes.
had been working a huge floor space and everything. I just wanted to emphasize the role of technology because one of our members in our group will have an opening tomorrow. I may mention it's in the paper. John Dimmick will have an opening. And he helped put together the cover. We all did our alphabets in our own style, and then we cut them all up. So this year's calendar from our senior group has really nice layout and everything. He helped us a great deal. And then we took it up to our wonderful printers.
So where can they get this calendar? Or is
Well,
it
we
gonna
were
be a
kind of
gallery
out of them.
walk?
I have this one. This is left over.
You and I are going to have to talk.
Yeah,
But
okay.
Lotus does a really great.
Well, I got all my printers at home. I got like
printers
3
at
of them.
But the idea was to take an idea of something long ago. Well, this isn't too long ago, but this is my neighbor's old sugar house. They have a new sugar house that's been burning a lot of wood these days because they've done a lot of sugaring. So the Robb Farm, right near where I live. And I was looking for John's. But I just wanted to
So, yeah, he's having a show.
just say
Absolutely.
that our group is very interested in learning, and keeping learning, keeping their work out there. Just
And you're
feel
saying he's having an opening tomorrow?
he has an opening down at the Latches.
At the Latches, great.
I think it's okay to put a plug in for some of our friends.
Yeah, it's gallery
He
walk.
has a nice, I couldn't find it in here, but he had one of the old Arch Street, then and now. I'll find
And do the
it.
two
There
of
it
you,
is.
do you find you like working in a group as well? Or do you tend to work alone? Or do you find it helpful in a group? Or
I'm a very solitary person, and I like to work alone. But I don't mind people watching me. That's why I really enjoy painting the murals, because people can watch me. Yeah, it's a spectator sport, more or less. But mostly I work at home, or I'll walk at the retreat trails or whatever. I actually built a desk out on the West River side past the marina. I found some rocks, made a nice desk. I can go sit out there and I can paint.
oh, that's great.
Very relaxing.
That's great.
Cool.
And do you want to mention your website where people can follow the brush?
My son helped me out. He's a computer geek. So he gave me a place to go set up a website. It's starvingartist1, the number 1, .4t.com. But if you Google my name, it'll show up and it'll take you to go to my homepage, and you can click on there and you can find my stuff. I've been playing with the website recently. I've left it alone for a bunch of years, but I've noticed that people have actually been looking at it. So I've been trying to keep it updated with what I'm doing here in town. And I have several old paintings that I have done in the past. And what I did is I take pictures of them and I put them in mats and frames, and I put them in the Baskets bookstore. And an old family joke is all my paintings, every once in a while I want to sell them. It's like, well, if you put them in a frame, you'll sell more. It's like, I don't want to frame them, because if you buy one of my paintings, you bring it home and the frame I chose doesn't match your decor, you're going to change it. So you're spending more money on a painting that already costs too much, because I don't like making money. Well, I like making money. I need money. Plug. But no, so I sell them unframed, but my prints and stuff, I'll actually put them in a mat or a frame and I'll sell them that way. Affordable, cheap art,
Oh,
so people can see them. And these are previous paintings, and they're cool.
That's interesting. And somebody said to you, you'll sell more art if they're in
So
frames.
yeah, so when I do get my studio, one of the signs is going to be, I got framed. And a little eye catcher, especially for Brattleboro.
Great.
Yeah.
And Sai, what about you? Do you
Yeah,
prefer working alone? But you teach too. and-
Yeah, I teach. Actually, right now my art making is taken to a different adventure. I used to be paint alone in my studio for many years, and now my goal is to open my studio to inviting people who don't have experience in art and to experience what I'm experiencing. And so that's why I'm doing a lot of collaborating and involving people to making art together. And yes, and also lots of social involvement and art, using art as a step to create, to raise the social issue, and that is really important in people's life. So I think through art, we can make our life better.
And you're in
Yes.
school. You're continuing your studies
Yes.
right now too.
Same as like Lindsay, I lost a job, and then I found a better job. And the job I really enjoyed so much, and I'm working with students and doing a lot of and socially aware of, and art. Like right now I'm doing Pink Slip project, and I just found out in ceramic there's a pink, there's a slip. It's called like a ceramic slip.
Yeah, the extra kind of
Yeah,
watery clay.
they call it slip. So we use pink slip to make ceramic balls, to make into serving serving the food in the community, serving hunger. So that's.
I was just checking the time. We're good.
Yes.
Good.
So it has a when I found that this is a really opening for me, and with people together, working together.
Well, you do a good job because you put a smile on with the pink slips, even our camerawoman. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will see everybody next time. Hopefully we'll get to see you all again. And check out the exhibit at the museum and out in the murals in Brattleboro. And at the Putney Library, you can see some of Maisie's work being exhibited. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.